Happy 4th of July! Woo! I'm so excited to be starting my channel back again. I already combed my hair and I did my eyebrows, put lotion on, and sunscreen. I do have something to show you guys. I'm just gonna put this out in the open. I got bit by a bug like in the middle of the night a few days ago. And I woke up with this little red dot. And as the day went on, it kept getting swollen and more swollen. And then the next day, I woke up and my whole eyelid was swollen. Oh my god, I could like, it was like, I looked like the guy from the Goonies. Oh my gosh, so I took a Benadryl, didn't go away. So I'm like, you know what, I need to go to the emergency room. So I go to the emergencies. I'm there for like 3 hours. They do an ultrasound on my eye to see if I get like any cellulite or like any signs of an infection, since it's like so close to your brain. So at the end of the visit, they just sent me home with some antibiotics and I've been taking them. So it looks like I'm doing pretty well because I could open my eyes. If not, I would not be recording this. But yeah, so I just have my eyebrows on. But yeah, if you see that, who cares? I'm just gonna put my hair. I'm gonna just get a little side bangs. Right now I'm getting ready for 4th of July. Me and Isaiah do not know what we're gonna be doing today because we don't really know what they do out here. I'm gonna be using e.l.f. Camo CC Cream. Last 4th of July, I was in Texas visiting Isaiah because he had finished boot camp, so he was in the training after boot camp. My gosh, I remember that was such a hassle because I was supposed to fly in July 3rd, and tell me why my flight kept on delaying. I was at the airport probably at like around midnight and they put on the news that it was the most delayed flight in the world. It's crazy, and now we're here together and we have a baby. I'll show you guys a baby later in his 4th of July outfit. Pretty excited to be starting my YouTube channel again because it's gonna give me something to do while Isaiah's at work and the baby's asleep and the house is spotless. No, I'm just kidding. You know, it's gonna be a cool little hobby again. Ooh, I like how this foundation is. Then I'm gonna use e.l.f. Hydrating Camo Concealer. I haven't really been doing heavy makeup lately because I think I've just been too... Honestly, I've just been too lazy. I don't really know what look I'm going for, but we're just gonna go for it. I'm gonna set my concealer now with Maybelline Fit Me Loose Finishing Powder. Okay, so I put on my Instagram for you guys to give me topics on what to talk about. And I got a lot of requests of my birth stories, so here it is. Get ready. It was scary. I was so scared. I would like dread giving birth my whole pregnancy. I was like, oh, like it's gonna hurt. So it all started when I went to my last prenatal appointment. The midwife comes inside and she's like, hi, I'm like, how are you doing today? I'm like, oh, I'm doing good. She's like, okay, well, your day's coming up soon. I'm like, yeah. She said, well, if you're considering a natural birth, you should get the membrane sweep because it's gonna aid in your body, you know, getting ready to give birth down there. So I'm like, oh, I was like, okay, that actually sounds pretty good. So she gives me the sweep and then she's like, this is gonna be starting contractions. So I'm like, okay. So then I do my research. I don't know why I didn't do my research first. Tell me why they say this is more of a natural way to induce yourself. My due date was May 15th and then I got my membrane sweep, I don't know, a week before. We kind of figured that I'd be in between the middle to the ending of May to give birth. And also I did not want to get induced because I'm like, I want to see how my own body, you know, naturally goes into labor because this is my first kid and I just, you know, I just need to know. I want to learn, you know, like what if I go past my due date or what if I'm early, but I didn't know that it induced you and she forgot to mention that. What the heck, when I found out, I'm like, it's a natural inducer? I call my mom and I tell her about that because I'm like, oh my gosh, am I gonna go into labor? And I'm doing all this research. I'm going on Facebook looking at like the mom programs that I'm in. And they're like, yeah, when I got my membrane sweep, I gave birth within 24 hours. And I'm like, I am not gonna have a baby without my mom or my family being here to help me and to help Isaiah too, because it's scary. We were originally planning to give birth at that hospital that I was going to the appointments at. But then it's like we were just having little problems with that hospital that we're like, you know what, let's choose another hospital that's closer to us. We'll walk in, see how it is, and if I go into labor, at least we know where to go and stuff. And not to mention that the original hospital, they weren't allowing any visitors, and they only allowed one person to be in the delivery room with you. So I was like kind of bummed out because, you know, I wanted my mom to be in there with me for moral support. So we go check out this new hospital, and it turns out that they do allow 2 people in the room. So I'm like, okay, so this is perfect. So we can let my mom know that she's allowed to be in here with me. So we call my mom. I tell her what's going on. I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to go into labor within these next few days. So I don't know. I'm just letting you know. She freaks out, books her flight. I think it was the next day her and my dad came. And so they come. And so then we're just waiting for, you know, my labor to kick in. But nothing happened. I did lose my mucus plug. Nothing happened. And I was bouncing on that yoga ball. We were walking, doing a whole bunch of walks. We went to DC. We saw the monuments, walking around. Nothing. And then I lose my mucus plug again. Then it was like for real this time. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm scared. I'm gonna have this baby soon. So, but I wasn't getting any contractions. We're like, okay, so let's just go on some walks and see if your water breaks or if you get any more contractions. So around 3 o'clock, we're walking home from like a 2-mile walk because I liked to walk when I was pregnant. We're walking over like this sidewalk that's like a little bit steep, and then my water broke. I was like, ugh. It wasn't like a lot though. I always thought when your water breaks, it's like, you know, like, oh my god. It's not like that. Well, at least it wasn't like that for me. It was just like a little like, did I just pee? Like, no. And I was like, wait, my water just broke. And then my family's like, it did? Like, what the heck? So then we call the hospital and we're like, okay, what do we do? And she's like, okay, just wait an hour and see how your contractions are. And I'm like, okay. I would get 1 contraction and then the next one wouldn't come for like another hour. So I'm like, I don't know why I'm not getting contractions. I was just feeling like discomfort. I'm like, you know what? An hour passed already. I'm like, my water broke. Let's just go to the hospital. We're on the way. I started getting kind of contractions, but they were irregular, so I couldn't really tell. And also I was like still confused which ones were contractions or not. So I don't know. We get to the hospital. The nurse is like, how far apart are your contractions? And I'm like, well, I think they're like 10 minutes. So she was like, oh, okay. She's like, well, if that's the case, if you give birth within the next 4 hours, I owe you $100. I was like, okay, bet. I'm about to have this baby and get paid. I'm in the room now. Isaiah and my mom are there. It was scary. I was just looking around like, oh my god, this is where I'm about to be, legs wide open and like pushing, you know? It was so scary. And giving birth was like my biggest fear. It still is. I don't care. And it's traumatizing. So I told the nurses, I'm like, once I start feeling pain, I am gonna ask for the epidural. When do I need to get it? When do I need to ask for it so it's not too late? Questions like that. I felt like I was bugging them, but I was like, I don't care. I was like, I do not want to feel this. Hours go by. I'm like having random contractions. They did hurt a little, but it just feels like, for me, it just felt like my back, my lower back was like being pushed out, like from the inside like that. Every time I would go up to the restroom, I would get worse cramps. And when you use the restroom, you have to take off the contractions for measuring. And I felt like that's when I had the worst contractions. But also I was too scared to like do any workouts. I was starting to freak out. I was like, I'm gonna have this baby. Like, I don't want him to come that fast yet. Little did I know, man. My contractions are getting a little bit stronger. I'm like, can I get the epidural right now? I was probably like 5 hours in. They're like, well, since you're so early and your contractions are like not regular, we don't want to give you the epidural too early. And so I was like, oh my god, I'm like, okay, I understand that. Because they're like, if you think this is bad now, just wait until the baby's actually coming. Then that's when, you know, you're going to really want the epidural. And then the epidural that you take right now is going to be like worn off. So I was like, oh my God. I was like, okay, I'll just wait. So I'm like, okay, is there anything else that I can do in the meanwhile? Like, can I get some medicine? So they put some medicine in my IV. Hours go by, still nothing. Then I'm like mad because I'm like, why are my contractions irregular? And the baby's not coming. And, you know, I'm still in pain. Can I get the epidural? And they're like, no, you're still too early. So I'm like, oh my gosh. So I'm like, can you guys check if I'm dilated? They check. Tell me why they say I'm at 1 centimeter dilated. 1 centimeter. This was like a week after I got the membrane sweep, I think. So I was already like, 1 centimeter dilated. They're like, yeah, so before we give you Pitocin to speed up your contractions and speed up labor and stuff, they're like, we can give you morphine. I think it was morphine. I'm like, okay. I'm like, yeah, I'd rather take that if it's like a lower dose, because maybe my body will, you know, react to that, and then my labor will start going, because I don't know how my body will react, because this is my first baby. I get the morphine shot. You get medication in your IV. That kind of burns. So your arm is burning. And then you get a shot of morphine on your thigh. Tell me why she went boom. And then she put it in so fast. It was burning. Oh my gosh. I wake up like a few hours later. It's the next day. Nada. My contractions are the same. They're still irregular. So they give me the Pitocin. Then my contractions started coming, right? And I'm like, no. This is not gonna happen. This is not gonna happen. I'm like, can I please have the epidural? So they give me the epidural. The whole time I was like, why are they like lagging to give me the epidural when I've been asking for it this whole time? This is why. You cannot move from your chest down. You cannot move. And you're numb. And I was like almost 200 pounds. They did not want to be the ones flipping me around. They flipped me one time because the epidural stopped kicking in on like one side of my body. And so they're like, okay, well, whenever that happens, we need to flip you to that side so that the epidural can, you know, gravitate towards that side. They flipped me over. They said, I flipped like, at the moment, I did not really think it was that bad. But my mom and Isaiah were like, then they started cheering that they were able to flip me over. So the Pitocin, you know, they would make it stronger so I could get more contractions. And now that I have the epidural, I can't feel the contractions. So I was like, bump it up because I'm ready to go. It was already like 24 hours. 24 hours. My labor was 32 hours. So this was like, I still had ways to go. They're bumping up the Pitocin, but they see that the baby's heart rate is slowing down every time they do that. They would stop the Pitocin and so then my body wouldn't contract strong enough or as consistent enough to give birth to the baby. So then they're like, you know what, something has to be wrong. So then they would turn off the Pitocin, turn it back on, turn it off, turn it on. So you would just see the baby's heart rate slowing down every time they turned on the Pitocin. And I started feeling contractions on like my left side of the body again. So I asked them to flip me over. And when they came in, the C-section doctor, I'm sorry, I don't know what they're called. She comes in. We've been watching the baby's heart rate and we've noticed, you know, it drops. So what I think it could be is the baby's umbilical cord is tied around him. I don't know why it didn't. I was like so in shock. Or, I don't know, but whenever I hear news like that, I just take it how it is and I don't react until after it's done, you know? So I was like, okay. So she's like, that might be the case. That happened to my kids. It's pretty common. And that's like the first sign of it. And since, you know, you're not even dilating. They checked me a little bit before, like a few hours before. So I was already like past 24 hours with the Pitocin and stuff. And I was only 5 centimeters. So then they're like, you know what, would you like to get a C-section? And I'm like, okay, by this hour, yes I do. And they're like, okay, well, you'll be seeing your baby in 30 minutes. And I was like, 30 minutes? This whole time, like, I've been spending nights here, and it's only gonna take you 30 minutes to get this baby out of me. So then I was like, wait, hold on. Where's the anesthesiologist? Because I can still feel stuff on my left side. Like, they needed to flip me over so that the epidural can, you know, go down there. So he comes in, he's like, oh, okay, well, I have to turn off the stronger epidural thing because now you're gonna go into surgery, so I need to turn it off. I didn't end up getting flipped over. They get me ready for the surgery. So I'm like starting to freak out because I'm like, I do not want a C-section, because you're in a C-section, you're awake for it, you know? I'm like, I want to go to sleep. Like, I don't want to have a C-section. So then I started getting nervous and I just started throwing up. So I'm like, oh my god, I feel like I'm about to pass out. And then I think, because I went so many hours without eating food and so much medication, like, pretty sure my stomach was going to be upset any moment, right? We say a prayer and then they take me to the room. I go to the room, then I start looking around. I'm like, oh my god, this is where I'm going to have a C-section. This is where I know I'm going to have my body cut open. Like that. I could still feel everything on my left. And he was like, oh, like, that's weird. So, put some more. And then a few minutes go by and he's like, okay, how are you feeling? I'm like, the same. I still feel everything on my left side. He's like, that's really weird. I wonder why. And I was like, oh, it's because I think it was unbalanced and I didn't get flipped over before I came in here. And he was like, oh, that's right. Like, I was supposed to come in here and give you like an extra dosage too. So I was like, yeah. The surgeon was like, why are you still trying that epidural? Like, why don't you just try the spinal? So he was like, no, it'll kick in. It'll kick in. So they're pinching my stomach and they're pinching my arm. They're like, does it feel same or does it feel different? And I'm like, it feels the same. Like, that I feel a poke right here just like I feel a poke right there. They're like, okay. And then they kept doing it. And then I was like, okay, I can kind of feel like less now on my stomach. She's like, okay, you can kind of feel it? I'm like, yeah. She's like, okay, I'll just wait a little bit. Okay. And then she cuts me open. I feel the blade going like, ugh. I was like, ah! When you get a C-section, you have to lay with like your arms spread out. And so I was like, oh my god. Oh my god. So I told the anesthesiologist, I was like, can I hold your hand? I'm like, I'm scared. He holds my hand and then all of a sudden Isaiah comes in and I see him look at my stomach. And I was like, ah! He's just sitting next to me holding my hand, you know, we're getting through it. It's like, oh, you're doing such a good job. And I was like, ooh, because I still felt like, oh my gosh, it hurt. It hurt on my left side. This is eyeliner glue. I feel her grab the baby. Oh my. She was like, okay, are you ready to meet the baby? And I was like, yes. She was like goes in there like that. Oh my god. Freaking hurt. I was like, whoo. Like, it took away all my freaking air that I had. And then the baby came out. And I was like, oh my gosh. And that was like a crazy experience. I started crying right away. I was like, my baby. My baby. It's crazy, like, when you think about, you know, you're pregnant. For me, it's like, oh yeah, I have a baby in here, but I don't believe it until I see it. And then I saw him there, and then I was like, oh my god, my baby. We were both crying. And then, yeah, Isaiah was able to go back there with the baby as he got, like, checked and wiped down and measured and stuff. I just hear the baby like crying and stuff. It was so cute. Like, like my child. Yeah, then they bring the baby close to me and I wanted to do skin to skin, but I guess you can't do that when you have a C-section because you're getting stitched closed. So they put him on my cheek. So I just remember like feeling him right here, and it was like the softest little cutest face. Like, oh. Would I want to do labor again? No Cerritos. Will I do it again? Yes. I'm already like, oh, I want another baby because he's just so cute. He's such a good baby too. But yeah, that was my story. 32 hours later, I had the baby. My water breaking until they pulled him out of me. It was pretty cool, not too bad. Honestly, the way the contractions were feeling when I was feeling them, I don't think I want to do natural. If I'm not even feeling the strong contractions, I'm like, I don't even want to know what that feels like. So I want to get a C-section for sure next time, because Now I have a wipey and a bobby pin, and I just wrap the wipey around the bobby pin, and then I clean off the makeup where my moles are, just so that I can make my face look more natural. So I can look more natural. Hello. Here is Houdini himself. Yeah, his umbilical cords were wrapped around his neck and his arm. How do you feel about that, sir? Tell us. Tell us. Was that such a scary moment in your life? Do you remember it? We think he remembers it because he doesn't like being swaddled. I put my nose ring. Now I'm gonna put a lip liner on. What do you have to say? He thinks he's grown. He doesn't like to be carried like a baby. Split my hair. Oh, hi. Okay, she got inches. That's like one of the pros that I got from being pregnant is your hair grows. Don't mess with me. My hair was like this short for like 4 years just because it wouldn't grow. And I get a haircut like every 2 to 3 months, okay? A little hair trim. And it's still pretty long. This is Solomon, aka Solito Chiquito de los Ojitos Bonitos. He's gonna be 2 months in a few weeks, so he's a big boy and he's already in 3 months clothes. Are you guys ready to see his 4th of July fit? He's gonna be so cute. This is the makeup look. Come on, me. Everybody, I want to show you my shirt. My first 4th of July. This is the only way he'll wear his hat.
Cool guy.
Yeah. He took off his hat. He's in a little blanket.